Welcome to episode 2 of Here Today, Storm Tomorrow, which is Force 13's latest and perhaps greatest feature on tropical cyclones, which we're running every day. And pretty much every night actually. We run at midnight UTC on every single morning. That's the intention of this, and hopefully it will come to fruition. And also we'll be covering everything that's going on around the world in terms of storms, plus more than that as well. Let's begin. At the moment we have a fairly quiet situation on our hands. We actually have no active storms at the moment really. We have one new invest that formed yesterday and we'll be covering that shortly. So let's take a look first at our satellite imagery areas. You can see behind me on the screen, first we're looking at the Eastern Pacific. There's very little going on here as you'd expect for this time of year. It's just a little small area of cloud lingering to the south of Mexico, not far from the equator, but it won't delve into a storm now, will it? Because it never has done and probably never will in January, but we're just looking at it anyway. The Atlantic, same too really. Very little activity. We've got some cloud coverage over Nova Scotia and Newfoundland, and of course the coast, the seas, the high seas out away from those islands, and of course those may be delivering precipitation and perhaps some gusty winds there in the next few hours. Extratropical of course. The Western Pacific, we have the remnants of Mekhala. As you can see on this imagery, they are barely visible because there's really very little left of that storm now. It is still recognisable. We'll move on to that very shortly too. You can see a bit of cloud cover over the South China Sea, and that's about it really for the Western Pacific, and that area of clouds will not develop into a storm in all likelihood. So, if we look at the Indian Ocean, we can still see Cyclone Bansi, which dissipated more than 24 hours ago now. That's still going out in the far south of the Indian Ocean. Of course, we have Chedza, a tropical depression now, and that is going to be moving off to the south. And a new area of interest rather by the looks of things, an area that looks interesting anyway, to my perspective anyway, in the South Indian Ocean, or far to the east of Madagascar. I always get those mixed up. The models don't predict that to form, but it does look interesting nonetheless. A few thunderstorms here and there. Looking at Australia, you can see Invest 94S, that formed in the past few hours. That's located just off the coast of Western Australia, and you can see some also thunderstorms over the Northern Territories and in the South Pacific Ocean as well. Not too far from the equator, we're looking at some heavy weather that's going on there at the moment, but no tropical cyclone activity. Okay then, let's take a look now at our individual storms. Not too much to talk about to be particular, Mekhala of course, Philippine name was Amang. It's now 25 miles per hour, 1007 millibars. Its position 17.5 degrees north, 123 degrees east. In the Philippines there are 22,000 people affected, and sadly it did cause 2 fatalities as it passed over the Philippines in the past few days, unfortunately. Of course, Cyclone Chedza still going as well, with winds of 25 miles per hour and a pressure of 1007 millibars, the same. 25.4 degrees south, 52.5 degrees east is its current position. Whilst we're on Chedza, it's the only storm we can really put a forecast on, and you can see the forecast here. It's expected to move towards the southeast. First a bit of a southward heading first of all, and then more of an eastward element going on later on in around 2 or 3 days time as the storm heads quite speedily off towards the south. So let's look at the latest satellite imagery of Mekhala right now, so we can actually see what it looks like in the floater imagery, and you can see very little left of that system, and the reason why is because of very high wind shear amounts, barely any rainfall even, probably just a little bit of light breezes here and there, to be quite honest. What was once a typhoon, very much a shadow of itself. And looking now towards Australia, where you can see some light rainfall occurring over Western Australia along the coastline. Another storm system that's being plagued by wind shear as well. We'll go on to the maps very shortly. That's why that system isn't really getting its act together either. Light rainfall here and there, and some winds, gusty winds, perhaps to 30 miles per hour or thereabouts along the coast of Australia. So let's take a look now at the sea surface temperatures. You can see warm waters in the southern hemisphere for the most part, 30 degrees lingering just off the coast of Madagascar, one of the warmest waters in the world, as well as Australia. The northern coast of Australia, we've got waters of 30 degrees around there as well, 28 degrees across most of the Indian Ocean. In the South Pacific, also 30 degrees, around 28 degrees is the baseline in the tropical Western Pacific, and the South China Sea, 26 degrees is the highest there, mainly in the southern part of that area at sea. Looking at the wind shear map, now you can see over what was Mekala off the northern coast of the Philippines, very high shear amounts, extreme really, very high. No storm really would survive in those sort of conditions. And it's increasing over Chedza as well, increasing amounts of shear there, and also high amounts of shear over 94S, but it is important to note that they are lower, significantly lower to the west, and possibly conducive to development if the storm continues in that vein towards the lower shear amounts. Looking at the model runs, we do have one thing of interest on there. If we take a look at the Australian region right now, you can see at the very end of this run here that there is possibly a new storm forming in the Gulf of Carpentaria. It's unclear whether it's the one that we're currently tracking, 94S, but it does seem unlikely because it's not quite the same area. We could see a new storm forming in that region of the Gulf of Carpentaria near the Northern Territories. That would be interesting if it happened. That is still around 10 days away or something like that. It's a significant amount of time, so it's not particularly likely that that will happen yet, certainly not a certainty. And yes, that's the main news in the tropical regions. No other systems on the models expected to form anytime soon. So now let's take a look at On This Day with Daniel Hudson.
Hello, my name's Daniel Hudson, and here's a look back at what happened on this day in the world of storms. Here at Force 13 we're building a database of what happened each day in the storm record. Dates of formation, dissipation, landfalls, and basically anything else that's interesting. Currently we stand at 3,021 entries and it's ever growing. On January 20th, Cyclone Ernest formed in the southwest Indian Ocean in 2005. And Cyclone Funa dissipated in the South Pacific 3 years later. In 2010, Tropical Depression 1W dissipated over Cambodia without being named as a tropical storm. Also that year, 2 other storms formed. They were Magda in the southeast Indian Ocean and Neville in the Coral Sea east of Australia. No damages or fatalities were recorded on this day in our current records. That's all from me for now, and now we return back to the studio.
Welcome back to Here Today, Storm Tomorrow. I hope you enjoyed that On This Day feature today, and that will be going on every day, as I mentioned yesterday too. So let's take a look now. We were going to go on to predict a season 2015, but that's still not been particularly prepared yet, so we'll be seeing that the scores on that at a later date, but you can submit your prediction. Visit the website force13.com/PAS2015.html. The link is on your screen right now, and you can submit a prediction either for the whole world in 2015 or for a particular basin or all 4 Northern Hemisphere basins throughout the year. As indeed many of you already have, quite a few, several dozen I think. So let's take a look at the storm totals for this kind of day. Of course nothing changed since yesterday. 3 tropical storms in total. 2 of those have become Category 1 hurricanes or their equivalents around the world, winds of 75 miles per hour. And one of those has become a Category 3 storm. That's Cyclone Bansi, reached 115 miles per hour winds plus, and of course that same storm reached Category 5 intensity as well, the only one to do so this year so far. How does that compare with other seasons that we're comparing to? Well, of course, as far as tropical storms are concerned, we're 4 days behind 2014. 2014 had 6 storms by now. We are 1 day behind 1 storm behind 1992, which had 4 on January the 20th, 1992. And we have 1 Cat 5, which is a very early formation date for a Cat 5 compared to those other seasons, earlier than either 2014, 2013, 1996 and 1992. The earliest of those was 92, which reached its first Cat 5 storm on March the 8th, so quite a way in front, at least in one regard. And on the subject of 1992, that's what we're going to watch now, the 1992 Eastern Pacific hurricane season. The reason why is because 2014 finished up with the most Eastern Pacific hurricanes on record, if you count the Central Pacific, and of course 1992 set the record for the most tropical storms, and it was 2014 had one more hurricane than 1992. We finished up with 17, 1992 had 16, and that's what we're about to see now. And I may as well take the opportunity actually to say at this point, thanks for watching, and we'll see you again tomorrow. Thank you.